and here in our enter initials, now this opens the new high score panel, right? That means that this new high score panel opens, and then we do all this initial stuff, and then when it's complete, that should save the score and update this panel, right? So what we can do is put that logic in here where we say add new high score, and I'm going to put in an action called RunFsm. Okay, and what this is going to allow us to do is put in a whole chunk of logic that would take, you know, a few different states over here and make it run in a single state. So this is a way of nesting FSMs. This is a way of being able to run an FSM with inside an FSM, right? And so you can even see here that the action itself, it requires an FSM template. Up to this point, we've used FSM templates in our asteroids. We literally put it on the object itself because there's just some values that we want to tweak between each of the variations of those objects. Another way that you can use FSM templates is in this action here, and this is arguably the most powerful thing about Playmaker is RunFsm. It's a way of, you can kind of think about it as like making custom actions. You can sort of batch huge chunks of logic into a single state, or rather, I mean, even more importantly, a single action. You could put several of these back to back, and they can all do different things, and that's like taking up one state here. And these are all their own FSMs. Well, not yet. There's currently no FSM templates inside of them, but they could all have their own. So what we're going to do is make an FSM template that does this here. It's almost like if you could come in here into your action browser and type in an action called add new high score, right? And then there's an action in here, you drag it in here, and then you have the little interface where it's like, okay, well, here's my high score that I'm inputting, and here's the high score list, and whatever, and then the action just does it. That's essentially what RunFsm is. I like to tell people often that the RunFsm action is a way of making custom actions in a way. And you'll see in a moment what I mean, because it gives you the same interface that actions do. What we're going to do is click new, and we're going to make a template called the same thing as this. We're going to call it add new high score. Okay, and you can see that it's made a template here. And if I click on this and go to our project, if I click on this, you can see that even in our project, it has the file here. So here, a new FSM template called add new high score. All right, that's great. This is what we want. Let's go back here, add new high score. So RunFsm is where we're using this. And you can even click the little ... and say that's what we're using, right? Add new high score. See, there's our asteroid one. If I select that, this RunFsm action is now sort of functioning as asteroid, but but this one doesn't really work because we didn't really set it up to be an action necessarily. It doesn't really do anything. But this new action that we're making, add new high score, will actually do something. So I can hit edit, and now we're editing the template, right? See it over here, it says template, add new high score. That's what we're working on now. And in here is where I can put the logic to parse the last score and our whole series of scores, and then fit it in wherever it needs to go, whether it should be, oh, this score fits right in at second place, or this is a fourth place score, or whatever it is. So this first state we'll call loop through high scores. And all we're going to do is put an array get next, and this is just going to let us go through each item in an array. Okay, so the array of high scores, it'll go through that. So we need to make that variable. Let's make an array called high scores. It is an int array, okay? And I'm gonna set it as an input value, okay? Because we wanna feed this value into this template, all right? So I can say that we're gonna be iterating through our high scores. So it'll get the first one, and then the second one, and the third one, and then the fourth one, and the fifth one. But for each time it gets one, it'll store the result here in a new variable. We can call next high score, and then we'll do an int compare right after that. So it gets the high score, right? So we get the next high score, starts with the first value, takes that first value, next high score, and compares it to, takes that value, and it compares it to a new variable we'll call player last score. So we're comparing our player's last score to this one, the next high score. And we're saying that if it's equal or less than, then we need to go back up here and get the next value to check, okay? So equal, we'll just say back, okay? Try again, right? And that'll send back to itself. So I can come back here and point right back to itself. See, arrows coming back to the state. But if the player last score is greater than the next high score, we could send off the event next, okay? So that means that we found a score that actually beats one of these scores. and since our scores are ascending, right, so the highest scores are at the top, it'll find exactly where our player's last score should fit in. So this next transition can fire off over here to the next state that we can call insert high score, and it'll be able to put it in the same place as this. But in order to put it in the same place, what we need is this array get next. It also will give us not only the result, right, whatever is in this place, but it'll also give us the index of that item. So if it found it at index number 1, which is right here as number 2 here, index 1 would replace this second place high score. So we can say our current index, it's a new variable, next high score underscore index. So we can use that over here with an array insert. Okay, so array insert allows us to say, hey, this high scores variable, insert our player's last score at that index. In other words, it's saying replace that score because you actually beat it. It sort of pushes the other values around so it fits it in instead of just plain old overwriting it. The score that was there will get pushed down a spot, and all the scores below that will also get pushed down a spot. And so the one at the very bottom will get pushed out of the list. And so whoever was at number 5 isn't on the top high score anymore, if it was above that. Now, we also want to use this for our high score winners, so the initials part, right? So we could come over here, make a new variable called, it's an array, it'll be called high score winners, okay? And this is a string array, okay? We're saying that our high score winners, the value that we want to put in is a new variable called winner initials, and it'll be at that same index, right? Except it'll be the index on the winners array. And now what we can do is put in our player prefs save variables. So here's where we can actually finally write those variables back to player prefs. So high scores is an array that we can write with our high scores. So this will have the new updated list of winners, or the list of high scores. And we'll do that again, except for high score winners. And it's an array of our high score winners. Okay, so now we've updated the list even on player pref, so we'll be able to close the game out, open it again, and we'll see whoever's initial and score that just got put in. And then at the very end of this, when we're using templates like this in a RunFsm, we put in a finish FSM action. Okay, and it says stop this FSM. If this FSM was launched by a RunFsm action, it will trigger a finished event in that state. So that means that everything that we just did, if we go back, remember this isn't a RunFsm action, right? There it is. It can fire off this event when it's done. Okay, so then we could send next. And this will just send off to another state. Let's say complete. Okay, so check this out. Our high scores, well, let's actually go inside because we're missing one thing. If we go to variables, our winner initials, let's make that an input as well. And we'll also make our high score winners an input and our player last score an input. Okay, so now check this out back here. And I actually did not mean to put high scores actually, so I'm going to uncheck that as an input. What we do want is our player last score, we'll make that an input, and our winner initials as an input. So what's cool is back here in this state, in our add high score, we could set these both as variables. So we're feeding those things into this. So this player last score, we could do that same thing that we did in the other FSM, where we say get FSM int, and we're getting from our game the score FSM, our score, and we're going to save it as a new variable, player last score. Okay, and we'll feed that into here, player last score. And the winner initials we could set with our initials value that we just made. So this is almost done, but since we did separate this logic, we have this load player pref state over here in our other FSM, but we don't have it here in this one. So actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this state right here, our load player prefs, and I'm just going to copy it. So I'm going to right click, copy states, and I'm going to paste it in to our template. So I'm going to come here to our RunFsm, hit edit, and I'm going to paste state, and I'm going to make this our start state. And when it's finished, it'll come through here and do the rest of the stuff. Okay, so we pull those values from player prefs as well, so we can actually do stuff with them, right? All right, looking good. Okay, so let's save this and let's give it a test. and we'll just pop into our FSM and look at the score. So, of course, nothing's happening right now, right? If we look at this one, it says, no, there's nothing, right? All these are zeros. Okay, that makes sense. And we start, and then shoot, get some points, right? Got 70 points. And then say we have 120 points now, right? And I'm just gonna die. Okay, and we could say bad to the bone. Okay, so now if I go over to our new high score panel, okay, it ran these states, the add new high score, and it's all the way at complete now. So if we check out this add new high score, go to show, loop through all these, and it inserted the high score. Okay, did this whole save thing. It said that, look at that, the first place is 120, right? And all the ones after it are 0, 0, 0, 0. That makes sense. Okay, so now when I stop the game, should be able to play it again. Except this time, when we go to the high score panels, look what happens when we load player prefs. It keeps the 120, and it shows that the last winners in here, that one of them was bad. Okay, so that's looking good. Our save system is working. Now all we have to do is take those values and display it on this list.